here's Brody Brazil.
You know, typically where we're at right now in late August is the slowest and most dormant part of the year for NHL news. There's not a lot going on for trades or transactions or hiring because, training camps are right around the corner for all 32 teams, and most of the clubs have things settled. So leave it up to the San Jose Sharks to kind of surprise the hockey world. On Friday, they pulled off a huge trade which might affect the future of their franchise in a great way. They dealt with Nashville to acquire Yaroslav Askarov, and I'm putting this statement up here with a question mark. Goalie of the future? Question mark? I understand some people will say that as a statement. I don't know that that's necessarily wrong, but I do think it's quite fair to ask this question. I really do feel like this acquisition is in the realm of wondering, can this player change the future of the franchise? Is he the goalie of the future in San Jose? There's a lot of reasons to believe that answer is yes. I'll get to them in a second. We'll get to the X's and O's in a second. But first, we got to look at some more pictures here. Number one, I am digging that mustache. In fact, it's a shame that a goalie has to wear that mask, and we won't get to see that duster as regularly as we should. That is fantastic. And also, how about the goalie celebration after a recent overtime win? He gets under the cage and he uses the crossbar as basically his bench press. I love personality. I mean, I know we all understand, we all assume, I should say, that goalies are a bit quirky, but that type of outward energy, I'm absolutely digging it already. All right, let's talk about the trade, what the Sharks get, what the Preds got. Obviously, Askarov for San Jose. They also get a 2025 third-round pick by way of the Avs. You'd expect that in 25 next year, after this season, the Avs will still be pretty good. So probably a low third-round pick. They also get Nolan Burke, forward from the ECHL most recently of last season. The Preds get forward David Edstrom, who was the Golden Knights' recent first-round pick. In fact, Edstrom came to San Jose, didn't really have any time there because he was part of the Tomas Hertl trade, what the Sharks got in return for number 48. The Preds also get San Jose's first-round pick, which they acquired from the Vegas Golden Knights. Now, this one's kind of weird. It's top 10 protected, but not for Las Vegas. It's top 10 protected for San Jose. If it's in the top 10, if Vegas really is that bad, which I don't know if we really even need to worry about that part necessarily, but San Jose would get the choice of keeping, obviously, that top pick. San Jose would then relinquish their own first-round pick from the 2025 draft. I know that's complicated, but it just goes to show it's a good situation. That's not necessarily giving up both of your first-rounders. It's probably giving up the second highest if there is a top 10 first-round pick. Anyway, and obviously, too, Magnus Krona, part of the deal from San Jose going to Nashville. We got to see bits and pieces of Krona, various little spurts of time, so he will become a Nashville Predator. But to kind of get back into the backstory of Askarov and how this all unfolded, he was an 11th overall pick back in 2020. He spent 2 really good seasons in the AHL. We'll talk about his stats and being an all-star both seasons in just a second, but he wanted to accelerate his path to the NHL. He's starting to feel ready. He's starting to say, hey, I think I've done the work. I've shown you what you need to see. I would like some regular time in the National Hockey League. But the problem is the Preds just went out and re-signed Juuse Saros to an 8-year contract extension. So anybody in their right mind who is a goalie and sees an 8-year commitment to the guy ahead of them, you can kind of see the writing on the wall. And so there was some rumors back and forth whether this was private first and then made public, but I think it was quite clear that Askarov wanted to be traded. The rumor was there was an official trade request. He wanted to go somewhere, and kind of the threat, so to speak, was that if he was on the Preds and didn't make the NHL roster for this season, that he would not report to the Milwaukee Admirals of the AHL. He simply would not accept going to the AHL this season. He had to be on the NHL roster or wanted to go somewhere else. And so the Preds and Barry Trotz decide, well, we have to make a move. They obviously didn't do it in division. I heard Chicago was interested, but it just makes a lot more sense to send this prospect out west, out to the Pacific, where maybe you don't have to see him head-to-head so much. As for Askarov's time with the Milwaukee Admirals in 22-23, 48 games, a .269 goals against, .911 save percentage. He had that same save percentage. That's not a typo in both seasons. But the goals against also 239 in 2023-24. I also found it interesting. He had four helpers last season. So a goalie that might like to play the puck and break it out. He was an all-star both seasons, no question about that. Made the playoffs both seasons. 17 playoff games, a .285 goals against in the playoffs, and an .897 save percentage with an 8-9 record. Obviously, the Admirals didn't have the ultimate success, but at least he's got that playoff experience to go along with two pretty good regular seasons in Milwaukee. So here are my first takeaways, and then in a second, I'll get to some deeper level takeaways concerning this move and the San Jose Sharks and how we view things moving forward. Number one, you know that the Sharks have been loading up the pipeline. I mean, look at this last draft with Celebrini and Dickinson and all the years prior. I mean, don't forget about William Eklund and company, and Mikhail Granlund and company. So there is obviously some building happening here, but it's also quite nice to see a goalie added to that group. Because otherwise, we're just talking about forwards and defensemen, and yeah, that's great, but don't leave the goalie to be the last thing you figure out, right? So now you get Askarov, who gets to kind of come up with this group and establish themselves as NHLers with this group. And if he really is touted as the premier goalie prospect in hockey right now, it is great to have him as part of that group. So again, I think we talk about the pipeline and we look at players here and there, and oftentimes that goalie position is just forgotten. Maybe you'll get a guy or you'll figure out who's the hottest hand going into that year. This is a much more tactical approach to have this figured out in advance. And let's also realize, to get one of the best out there, so to speak, among what scouts think, the Sharks had to pay. I mean, Edstrom was a piece for San Jose. Their first rounder was something that they were looking forward to as part of that Las Vegas trade. So those were big deals in terms of what the Sharks got, now what they're turning around to give away, but what they're also definitely going to get in Askarov here. They, the Sharks, I should point this out, are so into Askarov, and this makes a lot of sense. You know, they want to show him some commitment in a sense that Askarov didn't want to be in the AHL this upcoming year. And he might be in the AHL this season for San Jose at some point. I don't know that anything is necessarily determined, but I think he's more okay with that. They just gave him a 2-year deal. You can kind of see the writing on the wall. Like, Blackwood is good for San Jose here and now. But what does next year bring? I mean, the one after this one and a couple years after that. The 2-year extension for Askarov, it doesn't even start until 25-26. So not this season, but next season. I'm so thrown off here and what year it is and when 25-26 is. But the point is, there's still a year before 2 years kicks in, and that you'd have to think is more likely of when Askarov might be an every night NHL player. He's 22 years old. The scouts say right now he's NHL ready. So even if you had to, even if you didn't have a number one goalie right now in San Jose, you probably could put him in there, but I think that's the optimal timing and part about this. He times out well, like I said, with the rest of the group. There's no pressure. This team is still a few, and I'm going to use like air quotes here, a few years away, and so this is perfect timing. What do I mean by a few years away? I mean, the Sharks, you'd love to see them be better this year, and I think they will be, but they're much more interesting, and they're now pointed in the right direction. And you're going to see the development instead of the demolition with this team. So instantly, you know things are getting better. Whether on paper that works out, what the eye test will tell you is that things are moving in the right way. There's no pressure to like make this happen this season for Askarov or really anybody else. Okay, I really do enjoy the Sharks going after pieces right now and building versus that demolition. What do they call him? Big Money Mike? GM, MG, Mike Greer. Like, he is going after it. He has now, like, unofficially, nobody's going to declare, hey, we're done with the demolition here. Now it's on to signing everybody and building our team. But, like, read the room, read the tea leaves. Look at the moves he's been making. It wasn't just the draft. It's everything since then and this move. And you can see that the building is now happening instead of the demolition that was happening. I mean, wasn't it this time last year we were talking about Erik Karlsson, the 100-point player from the prior season, the Norris Trophy winner from the prior season, being traded away? That's what the Sharks had to do. Even trading away Tomas Hertl, that's what the Sharks had to do. So now you can start to enjoy the end of that process. It's done, and now the building begins. And there was some competition here. Again, Askarov, I don't think it was like, oh, he's lined up for San Jose. I heard several other teams. I don't want to run through the entire rumor mill, but the Sharks were the winners here of this deal. They had what another team wanted. They're stacked enough to have those pieces that other teams want, whether it's draft picks or players. And so they make a deal. And again, going back to the statement, Sharks goalie of the future, sure, I'll protect myself and put a question mark next to it for now, but I think like that's a legitimate question to ask. No pressure, but I think for Askarov, like it could possibly happen. And there's also this about the Sharks and their goalie history. I mean, we look at great teams over the years. Antti Niemi in 2012-13, he finished third for the Vezina, and Yevgeny Nabokov in 2007-2008 finished second. He was the runner-up for the Vezina. Those are the only two Vezina finalists in Sharks franchise history. And it's like no disrespect to any other netminder the Sharks have ever had, because there have been some very good ones. But isn't it time for the Sharks and their fortune and their history of more than 30 years, isn't it time for them to have an annual Vezina conversation status goalie? I mean, they've already they've said Askarov has comparables to Carey Price. I mean, let's hold our horses here, but you see what I'm saying? Like, if this is the one they went out after and got him, and they got him early, and they got him while they could, and they got him while he's coming up and he's about to be a huge splash, this would be a big deal. Now, I'm going to leave it with this. I still think there needs to be a significant amount of patience in San Jose. Like I said before, everything is more interesting now. You can see the pieces, you can see the alignment, you can see like the ship has turned around from going in the wrong direction to the right direction. How fast is that motor moving to get us all in the place where everybody wants to be? I don't know. But the point is, you know, I'm seeing on social media, we're back, everything's good again. I don't want to lead people on entirely the wrong way to have them understand like they're seeing all these good things and thinking it's fixed, things are okay. I think in the NBA, for example, where you have a roster of fewer players and the draft has more impact, maybe that's something that happens in other leagues, or like in the NFL. You draft a player and they're on your team next year. And if it's a quarterback, I mean, that's a franchise changer. I'll snap again instantly. That was a better snap. But you see what I'm saying? Hockey and baseball has this too. It takes some time for your draft and your players to develop to what they should be, what they could be, and actually have a hand in changing the franchise. So I just want to point this out. Yeah, some great things and opportunities are happening for San Jose. But as for this upcoming year, you know, the season that's right around the corner, enjoy it, get excited about it, of course, but understand that it's not going to be steps 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Hopefully it's a couple steps, right? But to get back to where we all want to be, that's still going to take, I think, more than this season. But Yaroslav Askarov, can't wait. Can't wait to see what he does. Obviously, that's an Admirals jersey. Can't wait to see him in teal. And whether it's with the Barracuda or a Shark, he's going to be in San Jose, which is tremendous. Everybody's going to get to see him up close and personal and kind of witness what probably is the goalie of the future for this franchise. You made it here to the end of this video. You know I really appreciate that. Thumbs up down below. That helps me, this video, and this channel. I would like that, but I would love it even more if you just make sure right now, go down there, make sure you're subscribed to this channel. That way, I definitely get to see you back here next time.